Hi everybody. I am playing around today with my lovely newfound tool of Google Earth to tell stories about Reform, Alabama, Pickens County. And today what I want to tell you about is all the summers that I spent with my grandparents, Lois and Philip Skelton. And coming out of Reform, Alabama, when you're going east towards Tuscaloosa on Highway 82, there's a road that you can turn off onto. It's County Road 49, but it's more commonly known, its name is Elmore Road. Now, Elmore Road was named that because a whole bunch of Elmores used to live on that road, and probably some still do. But when I was growing up, it was littered practically with a whole bunch of relatives. And so up that road, you can see where I have marked where Lois and Philip actually used to live there. That property still exists. We don't own it anymore, but if you hone in a little bit more on that, you can sort of see where my grandfather used to farm this land years ago. And that property fed three grandchildren, or well, actually 3 children, and 9 grandchildren for the longest time. My grandfather, Philip, didn't pass away until 1980, and so from around 1973, 74, somewhere along in there, till he passed away, he farmed that land, and we would go and help harvest it every summer. So I have many, many, many fond memories sitting there having to shell peas or butter beans or shuck corn or something like that. We would spend many days during the summer at their house doing that. So I would be over there with my first cousins, and we would be doing all of that labor. Oftentimes the parents were off in the fields actually pulling everything out, although sometimes we cousins were out there too. But oftentimes we were sitting there with our big pans and buckets of various different kinds of food, and we were doing all of the shucking and shelling while my mother, Mary Bell, and my grandmother, Lois, they were often in the kitchen doing all the canning and prepping of the food and all that sort of thing. So they had a couple of different freezers out in the back in a shed, and that's where we kept a lot of that stuff. Of course, we took a lot of it home when we would leave. And but those are some of my absolute most favorite summertime memories, was spending time at their house. Of course, we were cheap labor, which I'm sure that they enjoyed that part, but they got to spend a lot of time with their grandchildren, as well as we got rewarded for this. Okay, so we would often, at the end of the day, when we were done with all of this, we would come out and pile into the back of my grandfather's pickup truck, and we would drive down here, and right here on the corner is where Mary Lou Brown, or Mary Lou Elmore, her married name, used to live. And this house, I believe, is no longer there, but we would come down here and take this road, this little dirt road right here, and it's actually called the Ollie Bonner Road. So, surprise, surprise, Ollie is related to me, which I'll discuss in another video. But this little dirt road goes back into an area. All of this is very swampy back here. And there are 3 bridges. Now, the last time I was there in 2014, the bridges are now concrete bridges. But when I was a kid, they used to be made out of, some type of board material, hardwood board material, and they had runners on them. And I could only find a recent bridge. One time when I was visiting with my mother in 2014, I said, I've got to find one of those bridges. And so I took a picture of it so that you can see what the runners would look like. And so it was one of the coolest sounds of my childhood, of driving on that gravel. So you'd hear this loud sound of gravel, and then you'd hit that bridge and hit those runners, and it was quiet, 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 and then you'd hit the gravel again. And so 3 of those bridges were through here. Then over here, this is the swimming hole that we used to go in. That was our big reward as children growing up there that we got to go swimming in the creek, and Lubbock Creek. And so we would go there. It was really shaded and beautiful, and the water was just frigid cold. And so there was nothing like that feeling, you know, when southern summers with the humidity and all of that sort of stuff, you would go there and you'd be sweating because you'd been working all day and doing all of this stuff. You would take a dip in that cool water of Lubbock Creek, and you would come out of it totally refreshed. So that as we got back into the pickup truck and went back over to their house, that breeze on your skin when the sweat is gone and all that is just a feeling I cannot describe. Everything is right with the world when that happens. So we would go back over to Lois and Philip's house, and we would make ice cream, homemade ice cream. And part of the loveliness of that is, of course, you know, getting the salt and all the stuff ready and actually grinding it. And so at one point in time, I think we had, you know, something that you had to actually manually crank. And then eventually we got something that was a little bit more motorized, a little bit more automated. But that was a lot of fun. And when my grandfather passed away in 1980, I knew that those days were gone. And it is a memory that I wish I'd had a video recorder at the time, because I would have loved to have captured some of the sights and sounds of what that was like growing up there.